I want to introduce you guys Josh Schachter. He's SVP of Atlas at Gainsight. And his session is From AI Helpers to Autonomous CS Agents, Your Roadmap to True Scale. Welcome, Josh.
Thank you. So this is forward. Just got to figure out how to use the clicker, and then we'll be on our way.
That's a good thing to learn from me, too. Oh, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you all. I'm Josh Schachter. I'm the Senior Vice President of Atlas at Gainsight. Atlas is Gainsight's agentic future. It's the chapter that we're entering now and super excited about. Happy to share more about that and talk about how we as an industry are going from AI as helpers to AI and agentic as this autonomous next platform for all of our organizations. I want to cover with you the state of AI, SaaS, where we were, where we are as an industry, as agentic, preparing for agents, how you can do that to be best fit within your organization. And then I'd like to share a couple of case studies and use cases that we see. I talked to a lot of CS leaders and have been kind of collecting over the past months a compendium, at least in my mind, of the most popular ways, the most effective ways that people are getting their teams on the right rails through AI and agentic. To start us out, I would love to know from folks out here, what is your favorite AI use case right now? So there was supposed to be a QR code to Slido. I guess maybe that's not going to be there. Yes, it will. OK. Great. So scan that, and then we should have a word cloud bubble up. Next time, we're going to have the background music for this. Please. OK, so we're getting some honest responses here around memes. I like that. That's really cool to see. That it seems, at least based on the size here, it's a pretty uniform distribution, except email responses, and I assume email outbound as well. Before joining Gainsight, just recently, my company, Update AI, was acquired by Gainsight, but we were a meeting note taker for customer success. And one of the most popular features was drafting follow-up emails. And I remember thinking to myself, like, really, that's so table stakes, that's so basic. But at the same time, sometimes it's the simplest things that really catch our attention and give us the most value. So cool, we're all using AI in various use cases here. Let's flip back over to the slides. And how we used to think about AI when we were on stage a year ago was we were all jazzed about AI being this game changer. Can you believe it? Nearly 50% of companies in B2B tech are applying AI. And of course, we know that that's old news now. We started out with the table stake features of the follow-up responses to emails, helping to log engagements. And ultimately, it came down to better understanding our at-risk customers and eliminating our own grunt work, saving us time in the day. And today, and so again, in the past, and today, it's all about eliminating blind spots, driving new efficiencies, and creating cases for longer-lasting, greater ROI. And today, AI is not optional. It's just something that we all do. We know it's just part of the status quo of how we need to operate our business. As we kind of start to look forward with where we're just now starting in the world of AI and where things are coming towards us from, this is how we at Gainsight see the world of software, that it's changing forever. And it's changing because you have this democratization of creating software. How many folks here know what vibe coding is? Okay. I actually expected most of the hands to go up, to be honest with you. Vibe coding are these generative AI-driven tools that are helping folks build applications in a matter of hours. Literally, when I was running my own startup, my favorite vibe coding use case was I used to vibe code in like an hour or two, a fully interactive proposal back to my customers with a video, with all the kinds of cool interactive elements to it. So folks, anybody these days can create an application through vibe coding. And at the more professional level, our professional engineers are using similar types of tools to help them through agentic coding. My cousin is building an app right now. In his spare time, he's an engineer, and 90% of his code is being written by Claude Code, right? So anybody can code now, and also our professional engineers can code much quicker and produce much more volume and have more output. And so what that means is that as an industry, our industry of SaaS, our software moat is starting to collapse. It's under attack by these two different directions. On the right side, you've got the agentic competitors, all those YC companies that are coming out in their batches of now they're doing, instead of Uber of X, now it's agentic of X, right? And so that's bringing more competition. Quite frankly, a lot of the folks in this room, I suspect, are from companies that are not, a year or two old, that are slightly more traditional. And agentic is really kind of pushing us, right, to get closer to driving outcomes. And customers have more options now in that frothiness of all those applications coming to market. On the other side, on the build side, they have more of an opportunity to use those agentic coding tools that are helping them be more productive to build their own. And you saw about a year ago, Klarna ditching Salesforce, ditching some of their enterprise SaaS applications because they could now build it themselves. So in the build versus the buy, we as a SaaS group are much more threatened by what at the same time is giving us more opportunity. And so because we see these threats, retention is now existential. Sam Altman had this really interesting tweet about a month ago saying that we're now entering the fast fashion era of SaaS, which is really interesting, right? Just as you can go into H&M and then go into Old Navy, whatever these shops are, buy something, wear it, dispose of it the next month. That's the type of world that we're entering right now. It's really easy to try a myriad of different applications that are out there, but it's also really easy to let them go and to churn on those. And so we need to protect against that. We need to treat every customer like they matter like our best and biggest customers. And in the old way of doing things, we really focused on those biggest customers. It was the 80-20 rule. We focused on the 20% of customers that were delivering 80% of our value. We bear hugged them. We threw all of our bodies, all of our people, our best people, on that very high touch segment. And we assumed that the gray area here, the mid-tier and the longer tail, that they would really just sort themselves out. Again, they'd be on auto renewal. We didn't have to give them the same level of strategy, of engagement, of execution. But now, because of the different threats of build versus buy that we're facing, we don't have that luxury. We need to treat all of our customers as if they are our best customer, like I said. Means not only the high touch, but the mid-tier and the long tail as well. At the same time, we're still in this post-SERP era, as it were, and so we're still faced with this trope of do more with less, right, or do more with the same. So how do we do those two things? How do we treat every customer like they're our best customer, our most important customer, but do that while maintaining at least what our budget has been? So here's how we think about this. That the world of software as a service is transforming, we need to transform into retention as a service. Now that's actually talking internally, that's really part of how we're positioning Gainsight, right? Going from SaaS to RaaS, as it were. But I think similarly, it behooves everybody in this room to think about your post-sales, your CS organizations, of going from the SaaS mindset to the RaaS mindset. Of going from humans executing retention as a laborious workflow to really humans and agents working together to deliver retention as a key measurable outcome. And so when we can do that, we'll be able to take this approach, this previous approach of focusing on just the few, just the 20%, to now again, being able to reach every customer. Through agentic, we can go and take from just focusing on augmenting human work, but it's still very human-driven, to now automating a lot of that work. And then where we're consumed often with the tactical, to now freeing ourselves up to be more strategic on our most important accounts. And when we think about why we entered a career in customer success and post-sales, those three purple things, I mean, isn't that really the self-actualization that we all are striving towards? Is reaching every customer, automating the busy work, and freeing ourselves to be more strategic, to spend the time on the things that are higher value for our most important customers. So again, in this new world, RAS as a company like Gainsight, RAS as a mentality and playbook for CS organizations is a huge opportunity to really treat every customer like they're our best customer through human-led, higher touch, digital-led for our mid-tier, and agent-led for our long tail. And of course, agent-led also can apply to digital-led programs and human-led programs and those tiers, as digital-led can apply to our higher touch customer segments as well. And that's the approach that we're taking. With our customer OS ecosystem, it's all about helping to orchestrate agents and humans working together so they can deliver retention as an outcome. For us, it orbits around the customer lifecycle of helping customers learn about your products, adopting them, connecting, and then ultimately being successful, and our constellation of agents that are working along that overall journey as far as the platform and the products that we bring to market. And ultimately, it is about this orchestration of bringing together these different channels, being more human-led, empowering our people to be more strategic, being more digital-led, delivering value faster with more repeatability, and then the agentic piece to automate the work itself, and figuring out, the dance between those different types of approaches across all of our different channels. So, quick show of hands, how many folks are using agentic methods in your organization, on your teams? Raise your hand if you are. A little higher. But I'd say so no greater than 20%. My next question was going to be a double click into that, but I think I'm going to filter out folks very quickly. So if you're in that group, how many folks are using agentic to augment your manual workflows, really to help your people? And then how many of you guys are using agents to do work autonomously? Very small handful. Great. Would you like to share? Anybody want to share an example of how you're using agentic autonomously? If not, that's fine. Yeah, CS, yeah.
We're using it recently with a little startup called Satisfy.
We're equal opportunity.
Yeah. But we're basically, we do it, the agentic attends every single customer call, and then it logs all the activities post-call, it does the transcripts, it pre-drafts the follow-up. And then we're trying to use it also to essentially be a customer health score. We don't do any manual calculations. We can just, in theory, we're not there yet, but exclusively rely on 6 or 7 different data points, things like listening for the words the customer uses, looking at support cases, looking at product usage data, and then just trying to give a single health score. So we're trying to use that to predict churn and retention and things like that.
Amazing, amazing. And that's a common use case that I hear about. That's very popular these days. Of course, we have our methodology for doing that as well, and our offering on that. But basically taking an aggregation of all your different data sources and net identifying the health and being more proactive in health scoring. So no matter how you're thinking about agents, how you're using them today or how you want to be using them, looks like there's a lot of opportunity here for folks to start using agents more in their workflows. There's these 3 key pillars that I want to share that I believe are most important to get the most out of agents to really be able to set up a successful agentic program. The first is having good trusted data that you can act on. It's all about also having clear documented processes that the agents can replicate themselves and getting closer to objectives and outcomes. I think in the agentic world, there's a new opportunity for that. On the first piece, it's all about the data. In the old world of doing things, there were less data points. Maybe you had some telemetry. On a good day, you had your product telemetry. Oftentimes, you're lacking that. but you've got some kind of survey information, NPS perhaps, and then a lot of hand wavy finger in the air, human judgment on how we think the customer is doing. And like this gentleman shared a moment ago, now we have much more opportunity, but the key part there is that we have all the data in place to take advantage of this agentic world. When I talk to leaders and they're struggling with bringing agents to life, it's because they don't have the bottom part of the iceberg all lined up yet. So start now before you go and launch your first agentic experiment, but really making sure that you have an understanding of what the data points are that can help you in that journey, starting to set those things up, focusing on clean data hygiene, the plumbing around that, so that you can go from 0 to 60 when you first start dabbling in agentic enablement and automation. And when you have that data, you can do some amazing things. Again, like you mentioned, you can start to uncover churn detection from emails that are sent back and forth with your customers. You can start to identify expansion opportunities and catch those where they might have previously gone undiscovered, things like support tickets. And you can get more consistent interpretation of conversations with customers and the types of signals that are coming out of those conversations. The second piece that's critical is to have your processes documented. Now, we work with a lot of enterprises. Oftentimes there's copious and copious and copious amounts of processes that are documented, sometimes not all that cleanly. At smaller companies, startups and scale-ups, oftentimes this just isn't the case. But no matter where your company fits in that spectrum, if you don't have what good, what great, even what perfect looks like as a template for how your people are operating, then there's no way to be able to translate that to what the agent should do. Because the agent needs to mimic human behavior, the behavior of your best CSMs, right? The behavior of how you've defined your playbook. So this is all illustrative. This is actually a walkthrough of our renewal agent and at a high level how we think about the process. But the point I'm trying to illustrate here is to map these processes out. When we start working with our customers, we sit down, we do workshop sessions, we pull up a Miro board, and we start to really literally map out what the workflow looks like today, understand where it's working, where it's not working, and then what the translation of that looks like or should look like in the agent world. Sometimes it's one-to-one, sometimes there's different little pivots that you make accordingly. But if you don't have that blueprint, then you're not setting yourself up to be successful in an agent-led world. Agents allow us to get much closer to outcomes. So we're no longer selling seats, or we won't be selling seats for very much longer. We'll be selling those outcomes. And when you're thinking about purchasing, agentic enablement, you want to be thinking about the outcomes that it's going to drive and measuring those outcomes over time, which means up front, you have to be very clear with what the outcomes are, what your objectives are, and measuring and building business cases around that. So it's not a matter of, hey, there's this renewal agent, which is really shiny and sexy, and I want to purchase it, and don't you think this is a great idea? It's starting with what's the outcome that I'm trying to drive. In this case, maybe my North Star is my GRR. Okay, great, how am I going to drive that? Well, there's renewal agents, there's implementation agents, there's adoption agents. Everybody has a different type of agent. Which is the one that we think is going to be most effective to driving towards that outcome? What's that going to look like for my unmanaged segment? Well, it's going to help me reach out and touch more customers that I previously didn't have any interactions with, so it's going to help take the GRR on those accounts from 63% to 76%. That's going to equate to this amount of value that I'm going to drive. On the managed side, maybe it's a little bit more about reducing my cost basis, but also I'm going to free up the time of my most valuable CSMs so that they can actually focus on the more strategic accounts and increase the GRR for those accounts. No matter how you break it down, the overall point of this is to really be very clear about the outcomes and work with an ROI calculator and really kind of build that business case up front so that you can continue to measure against that business case. We have an ROI calculator that we've built for Atlas for our renewal agent. It's a Google spreadsheet currently. We're iterating on it every week and kind of evolving it. I'm happy to share that out with folks. If that's something that's helpful, just ping me afterwards. I've got a QR code for my LinkedIn at the end. And I'm happy to share that as an example. I've shared it on LinkedIn. A lot of people have appreciated kind of seeing a framework for how you can think about the value of agentic. So I run a podcast. It's called Unchurned. Many call it the best podcast in all of customer success. Mainly my mother, but others as well. And so I speak to a lot of leaders about what they're doing. That's actually been becoming more and more the theme of the show, is speaking to leaders about how they're bringing on AI and thinking about it in agentic in their organizations. So I wanted to share with you actually 3 very recent episodes and leaders from those episodes of what they're doing. So here are 3 women that are transforming their roles based on AI and based on agentic, all from different archetypes. So you've got the enterprise CSM, the chief customer officer of a major 10,000 person company, and then VP of customer success at a startup / scale up who's a little bit more of that player coach type of role. So 3 ends of the spectrum. And I want to share with you, I want to show, not tell, really kind of show you concrete ways that these folks are getting the most out of this new universe of AI and agentic enablement. Let's start with Kalpana. She's our homegrown at Gainsight. She's enterprise CSM. She's been with the company about 3.5 years. Her challenge on the left was that she had 10 more accounts dumped on her. And so she increased her book of business by 40% overnight, from 25 accounts to 35 accounts. Now, you can imagine if you're in her shoes, that's pretty anxiety inducing. How literally she initially was losing sleep over that. How is she going to increase the number of people that she could serve strategically without just being completely inundated with prep work and those sorts of things? She put together the workflow on the right. I'll talk about that. And the overall outcome is that she reduced her prep time for executive business reviews by 60 to 75% using this agentic workflow that she built. And that's allowed her, of course, then to scale her strategic energies, to more and more customers. I like her quote here. It says, I needed to find a way to scale myself quickly. Now I can sleep easy before an EBR. So what did she do? Well, at the top there, intelligence gathering and validation. Of course, she uses Staircase. She uses Gainsight as part of being, in our family, using our own products there. But she takes from Staircase the conversations that our company is having with each of her customers across the different channels: support, tickets, emails, phone call, Zoom calls. She's taking that, she's pulling that out of Staircase and the patterns that are detected there. She's taking account level information from Gainsight, from the Copilot, to capture different data points about the account. And then she's actually, over time, throwing stuff into to Google's Notebook LM. And Notebook LM is creating a mind map of overarching patterns about each account. So she has the data sources already, right? She's checked the box on having the access to the data. And she's been harvesting that data. She then throws it into ChatGPT, nothing too fancy, but she has her own GPT that she's created so that it knows the type of output that she's looking for an executive business review. It spits out for her an outline of what her slides should look like to prepare for her upcoming EBR. She takes that outline, she puts it into Gamma app. Now, she'll kill me for saying this out loud. Our head of product marketing doesn't like Gamma app because it doesn't get you to 100% of the most beautiful slides in the world. But for Kalpana, it gets her 90% of the way there. Huge time savings, right? And then she can spend her time on getting from 90% to 100% and having really nice templated slides to present in an EBR. And then, of course, she presents, in real time, on Zoom or in person, to her customer, to her account. And she's been able to become much more strategic, much more dialed in, much more comfortable, and save herself a lot of peace of mind in this process. Next one is Sophia Barbosa. Sophia is on the other end of the spectrum. She is the CCO of BMC Software, 5,000 to 10,000 person company. She was just promoted to that role under a year ago while the company split from BMC. Now it's BMC and also BMC Helix. Her team of 160 CSMs became 80 on each side, so she had to basically do the same but with less people. And so she needed to go and show her executive team that she would be able to do that. So immediately, Sophia thought to herself, there's no way I can do this without AI, without agentic. She stood up a platform that she calls Succeedo. She devoted several resources full-time to helping her build this agentic platform herself. So that's the build option of build versus buy. And here are some of the most valuable use cases that she's gotten out of Succeedo in just the last couple of months as it's been off the ground, and what's coming up for her. She was able to 3x the number of customer success stories, value stories, on the top left there, that her team was producing. So she went from it taking literally a month or two to create those stories because people had to assemble all the information from different functions to being able to produce these in less than a day, and 3x the outcomes of those value stories. Her team was able to take all of the different learning paths, like 400 plus product courses that they had in their repository, and identify specific personalized training paths for each of our customers. That's for their own internal enablement today, but in the next month or two, it'll be external, where customers can engage fully themselves in that personalized training recommendation. There's the value summary agent, which is coming out for her, which analyzes and presents back to the customer their value realization throughout the entire journey. All of that is automated. And she's most excited about the statement of work agent that is going to go end to end and build out statement of works for her professional services team to fully close the loop, saving them hours per each of those statement of works that they're engaging in. I'm short on time, so I'll rush through this a little bit. But the third persona is Liron. Liron's a good friend, one of the strongest leaders that I know in customer success. She loves devoting her time to startups / scale-ups, companies that are just just off into the races, and there's a little bit of chaos and tumult because of it. And so she went into Aligned not too long ago with a team of 2 people, which included herself, trying to manage 100 accounts growing month over month incredibly rapidly, and being able to service all of them without with the resources of a startup. So what she's done is she's created these agents. She calls them her tiny workers. She launches that every morning. She literally wakes up, launches her agents, goes and makes her coffee, and then comes back to her desk and starts her day. And these are the most effective agents that she's built. An AE to CS handoff agent takes in all the different information from the sales process, make sure she's fully prepped for those conversations as folks get onboarded. A meeting prep agent that goes beyond just the surface of general meeting prep, but takes in internal and external data points from past conversations. A communication agent, which helps, not really an agent, but communication play that helps soften her language to make sure that she's optimizing her communications to her customers using a very soft type of tone that's going to have the best outcomes. And then ultimately right now she's working on an orchestration agent, which again is a little bit like Staircase AI that we bring to market, and there's other products as well, that takes all the different inputs, analyzes them, and spits out for her the health of her customers. So key takeaways for CS leaders. In my view of the world, the most successful deployments of AI are top-down meeting bottoms-up. So making sure that CCO level folks like Sophia are creating that overall platform, but you're giving your teams a safe environment so that ICs can build and experiment themselves, just like Sean was saying in the last presentation. And of course, it's about getting your data in order like we saw, mapping clear processes, knowing the ROI up front, and measuring and managing that ROI throughout the journey, and then considering build versus buy options. Happy to continue the conversation on LinkedIn. If you want a copy of that business ROI calculator, happy to share that out as an example. And one last pitch to Unchurned. Those episodes are all going to be out. They're previously out, but out, and Sophia's is coming out next week. Thank you.
That was awesome.
Sorry.
That was very, very practical advice. My mind is like reeling of all these ideas. So for our next presentation,